this year, we'll complete these projects based on the schedules that we have. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Any supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for your assurance regarding the completion period of the said project. Now I have two supplementaries. My first one is, can you be specific and provide this House with timelines as to when the 249 LV poles, together with the accompanying accessories, will be made available for the completion of the project?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with law as passed by this House, we've secured commencement authorization. We've written to the Public Procurement Authority, but we want to do it through competitive process. We are not doing sole sourcing. And so it will be very, very difficult when you are going through such processes to give timelines. But no, we are not sole sourcing for this very project. What we intend to do is to open it up. And I can assure you that once we are through, we'll prioritize these communities and get them sorted out. And that is why I said that I'm very, very hopeful that before the end of this year, these communities will be connected. So in terms of timelines, I can comfortably say that by the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Member, any further supplementary?
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Now, Minister, with your assurance that you've just given me, would that be different from the LV pools and accompanying accessories to be supplied to Apahun, Tontom, and Yaokra Room?
Mr. Speaker, we intended to do that under the process that I mentioned earlier. Mr. Speaker, under your leadership and under your guidance, and with the relationship we've developed, I would appeal to my friend, if it suits him, tomorrow I would like to have a meeting with you and my technical men. Even if we have some few polls, we can prioritize and release them whilst we go through the other process. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Grateful Minister, you shall live long.
Honourable Members, question number 541, standing in the name of Issa Salifu Taylor, Takwa Nswaim.
Thank you, the Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Energy and Green Transition when the Ministry will provide additional transformers to Takwa Nswaim to replace the 33 damaged units due to overloaded transformers.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I alluded earlier, we have about 1,000 transformers across the country experiencing some overloads. So far, when we inherited government, the briefing I got showed that we needed to work on about 1,000 transformers. We've been working on them and we've made significant progress. And recently, I did announce that by the end of this month, based on the competitive process that ECG is going through, we would go into the second phase of mass-scale replacement of these transformers. And these are some of the challenges that the Takwa Nswaim constituency is experiencing. And so the main problem there has to do with some transformers that are experiencing overload. And while certain communities are experiencing these overloads, I just wish to clarify that the briefing I have indicates that currently there is no damaged transformer awaiting replacement in Nswaim. Rather, what we are working on is to replace or add transformers to the current transformers. And this time we are adding much higher capacity transformers so that they can stand the test of time for a long period. The only faulty transformer within the district is located at Nkwanta. Affected customers have been temporarily transferred to adjacent healthy transformers to ensure continued service. And that is what we do. When we realize that a transformer is damaged, we transfer the customers onto alternate transformers so that they can continue to enjoy power while we work on the damaged transformer. At present, 33 kV rated transformers required to relieve the overloads are being procured. We also wish to assure the honorable member that once these transformers, we take delivery of the transformers, we would prioritize your constituency and work with you to inject new, strong, high-capacity transformers to address this challenge. And like I said, ECG is currently undergoing a procurement process to acquire and install these 33 kVA transformers. Mr. Speaker, just to add that the current MD indicated to me that he needed to do an open competitive process to establish the base price. He wants to do a competitive process to establish the base price. When he establishes the base price through competitive process, subsequently, even if he has to do sole sourcing, there would have been a reference point for him to negotiate for better terms. And so far, we are making progress on that. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, I'm okay. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. And I will do my best to collaborate with your ministry to make sure that we do a proper follow-up for my constituent to benefit from.
Honourable members, we move to question number 626. Standing in the name of Nelson Kofi Jaba, Karachi East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Energy and Green Transition when the following communities in the Karachi East municipality will be connected to the national grid. The communities include Ativikope, Tumbikope, Pai Old Town, Sikape, and Atafiam.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Tomikope, Pai Old Town, and Atiafiam are not yet part of our current ongoing electrification programs. The Ministry will, however, engage the Member of Parliament to consider these towns because Parliament has approved the rural electrification project for 4 regions. And I know that Oti region is part of it, and so we wouldn't have a problem. Volta region is also part of it. And the objective is to achieve universal access towards electrification. So I can assure him that once these towns have come up, this is the right time. We'll take them up and include them in the list. Meanwhile, we are currently implementing the electrification of 25 communities in Karachi East, including Cement, Benagma 1, Chinokope, Mimpiasem, Mipekope, and Anton Kope. So you can be assured that these 25 are ongoing. The other ones that are not part will certainly be captured as part of the ongoing electrification project that we want to roll out. Thank you.
Any supplementary question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm okay with the explanation or the answers provided by the Minister, and I'm so grateful to him.
Very well. This is also constituency specific. We move to 651, standing in the name of Honorable Kofi Nokwe.
Yes. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Energy and Green Transition when the gas rebottling plant in the Evalue Ajomojura will be completed.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the LPG bottling plant at Axim in the Elembele Ajomoro Gwera area of the Western region is an EPC project being implemented by a company whose name is in the Hansard on behalf of Ghana Gas under the National Cylinder Recirculation Model Program. The project is valued at an estimated $24.7 million. It was awarded on 19th October 2021 and construction commenced on 13th July 2022 with a target completion date of July 2024. However, on assumption of office, the project had not been completed, and an amount of $8 million had been expended already, with about 20% completion of procurement and site construction work. I personally invited the board to inquire from them what was holding the work. Although the board indicated that a front-end engineering design had been undertaken, key market and feasibility studies for LPG sourcing, which is a key requirement for the factory, and sales had not been conducted prior to the award of the contract. Consequently, the board has initiated a detailed review and audit of the project and commissioned independent market and feasibility studies, which is expected to be completed by the end of the second quarter of this year. These studies, when completed, will be submitted to the minister. Upon receipt of this report, we will then be informed, and from an informed point of view, we would make a decision on how to proceed with this project. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Any supplementary question?
Very much, Right Honourable Speaker. First of all, Right Honourable Speaker, for the records, I want to correct the records that it is not in Elemble, but in Evalue Ajomojura. And also to celebrate the Minister for his passion about the transition, especially the use of gas. But Right Honourable Speaker, I visited the site. I've seen the investment that has been made so far and the deterioration that is happening. And with an investment of almost $8 million already injected.
Honourable member, asks a supplementary question.
Would the Honourable Minister be kind enough to give some assurance on the timelines and confirm his commitment to seeing to the completion of this project to serve the purpose for which he was initiated?
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he has my assurance. Thank you.
Yes, any further supplementary question?
Very much, Honourable Speaker. I take his words. The Minister, I know, is a nice gentleman.
Ask supplementary question.
And that we take his assurance. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, let's move to question number 653.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question
on the constituency specific.
With respect, Speaker, gas cylinder recirculation is a national issue.
Please ask.
Yes. So, Mr. Minister, if you look at the answer that was published in the other paper, the answer says something, and I didn't hear you read that part. I don't know whether it was omission. It says that after the end of the 2024, approximately 8 million had been expended with progress, including 100% completion of the site works, 80% completion of detailed engineering works. You of course, you spoke about 20% completion of the procurement and construction. I want to find out whether this information was brought to your attention or it was just an oversight when we were reading it.
That is his answer, which he read to the House.
Mr. Speaker, when I'm answering the questions, sometimes I do not read verbatim. If I intend to read verbatim, I may sound boring. So I go to the crust of the matter, and that's why I said 20% completion of procurement and site construction works. Because what you talked about, if you don't do that 100%, you cannot begin to construct. You need to prepare before you start constructing. So once I say 20% of construction, there is assumed that the initial work that you need to do, which is 100%, which allows you to construct. But if it's the will of the Speaker that I should always read everything verbatim, I will do that, because these are my answers that I provided to Parliament. Thank you.
Honourable members, question number 653, standing in the name of Sanja Nanja, Member of Parliament for Atebubu, Amantin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Energy and Green Transition what measures the ministry is implementing to deal with the shortage of electricity meters in the country.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we assumed office, particularly for 2024, even though the ECG board approved about 3 billion for the award of contracts, more than 9 billion was awarded for contracts, including the supply of meters. And previously, there have been similar awards. So it led to a choke, particularly when I insisted that we should implement the cash waterfall to its letter. It means that the revenue ECG was receiving as a portion of its cash waterfall allocation was not enough. So some of these meter manufacturing companies who had been given huge contracts could not meet that demand. So we've done a review, and now we've reviewed ECG's money from the initial 300 to an amount of 360 million cedis per month. Not only have we increased it, we've now indexed their collection to a percentage of the total collection to give them the incentive to collect more. So if ECG wants to get more than the 360 million, then they have to work very hard and collect more, because the more they collect, the more they get. But I can assure you that following that intervention, we are beginning to see much more meters being released into the system. And I can assure those without meters that in the coming weeks, we would have a lot more meters to distribute, except that we want to be strategic and not to be wasteful. But we are on course, and the meters will be made available. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, thank you once again, and I thank the Minister for very elaborate answers that he has given to the question. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, in the Honourable Minister's response on paragraph 2, he said that an adequate number of energy meters have been procured. I'd like to know from him if he knows the net deficit of energy meters in the country, if you have any information on that. I'm talking about the gap. You procured adequate numbers. It tells me that there are some outstandings, and I'm asking if you know the gap.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I would appeal to my good friend that I will need to get the accurate numbers, because this is a house of record. And once you are asking for numbers, when you have about 6 million customers, the numbers keep changing. So I would plead with him that if I'm given time, I'll get all that records and ferry it through your office to him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You see, honourable members, it's for a stated reason. That's why there is a limit to what you can ask by way of supplementary. If the minister should extempo provide the answer and it turn out not to be correct, then it means the minister mislead the entire House. So some of the questions should have been specific questions for the minister to prepare and come and answer. Yes, Honorable Jerry Ahmed, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just a follow-up. I just want to find out from the minister if the meters that are coming in are the meters that will not be of the same boat quality, that will be consuming our electricity within the shortest possible time.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in accordance with best practice and standards, all meters procured are tested. And there's a facility at the Standards Authority dedicated for meter testing. And so I can assure you that these meters are of high quality, they meet the standard, and they will do the job that they ought to be doing. So I can assure my honorable colleague that these meters are meters that meet the standards of the PURC, they meet the standards of the ministry, and they meet the standards of the Energy Commission through the Ghana Standards Authority. Thank you.
Yes.
Speaker, is it the case that the minister is unaware of complaints about some of these meters which are already in circulation, that people are complaining about that they consume electricity more than they are expected?
Well, you may ask a specific question.
Very well, Speaker. I agree. I thought that is a man very well versed, so he may want to take advantage, but I agree.
Yes, Honorable Richard Achampong.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. I want the minister to give us some great assurance, because, Mr. Speaker, people want to enjoy electricity. If meters are not supplied, it comes with illegal connectivity and the rest, and we are losing a lot of resources.
Honorable Deputy Whip asks question.
So my question is, Minister, in especially Greater Accra region and in Greater Kumasi, when are we expecting to get full supply of meters?
Yes, Minister.
Mr. Speaker, like I said, this year we've reprioritized ECG's procurement. Mr. Speaker, whilst in 2024, about 9 billion was spent in procurement, largely on cables, this year ECG's budget is 1.8 billion as compared to about 9.3 billion. And of that 1.8 billion, we've prioritized two items: transformers and meters. And so let me assure my good friend, like I said, next month we'll start mass-scale rolling out of transformers. Within that same month, we should see a lot more massive injection of new, standardized, accurate meters following up, because that is how we can also ensure that there's guaranteed revenue for investment. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, having exhausted all questions scheduled for the Minister, I am on your behalf expressing our sincere gratitude for attending upon the House to respond to those questions. Minister, thank you for coming. You are hereby discharged. Honourable members, question time is ended. We then move to item 9, statements. Honourable members, the first statement on the order paper is standing in the name of David Sansan Opoku, Member of Parliament for Braiso, and Dr. Abednego A. Lamajin Bandin, Member of Parliament for Bunkuruku. Honorable Opoku, is he around?
Speaker, he sought permission, so it's not. But I thought it was a joint statement.
Honorable Abednego,
yes.
Are you around?
Speaker, we can take.
Once both are not around, I will ask that the statement be captured by the answers in their respective joint names. B is Isa Atta, Member of Parliament for Sanarego.
Welcome back. The Institute for Energy Security is pushing for government to suspend the collection of the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy on diesel. In a statement, the Institute says the move will provide modest but timely relief for consumers already grappling with rising fuel costs. According to the IES, the call is driven by growing upward pressure on petroleum prices on the international market. It cites geopolitical tensions, global supply uncertainties, and rising freight risks as key factors pushing prices higher and influencing domestic pricing here in Ghana. We'll speak to them shortly. But first, Isaac Kofiaje, he's the head of research here at JoyNews, is joining me in the studio with more. Isaac, how much of a relief will the suspension of the price stabilization levy bring to consumers?
I think we've come to this conversation before. We've been here before during the Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, the then administration suspended the price stabilization recovery levy on the export price of fuel. But if you ask me how big a relief that will be, that tax handle is just about, it's actually below even 20 pesos, right? So you ask yourself, 20 pesos as against the current, export price of diesel, for instance, which per what we are checking from the OMCs or the petrol stations, is currently above, some selling above, 15 cedis and all of that. So you ask yourself, 20 pesos, what will it really do? Because at the moment, although you've got both petrol and diesel increasing significantly, the burden now is on diesel, for instance, and we are not even talking about LPG, which a kilo is now, has exceeded 10 cedis per kilo and all of that. So it's not a significant amount if you are really scrapping that tax handle, but you could see that in this difficult moment, the smallest, decrease is actually, seen as something significant, especially if you look at those who are in the diesel value chain, where it is these big trucks who usually will fill their tanks, spend huge sums of money. And so although it's about 16 cedis or 18 cedis or 17 pesos, sorry, it helps when you are filling in a bigger tank, you feel that impact. And so I could understand why IES is actually calling for this, the suspension of that levy to actually give consumers that relief. But in terms of magnitude, it's not really as big as, let's say, the 1 cedi additional levy on the export price of fuel.
And how is that going to affect government in terms of revenue mobilization if it's scrapped eventually? Well,
in fact, government is already, feeling the impacts of that scrapping of tax exercise they did in 2025. Because per our checks from the data, government missed its revenue target by some 3 to 4%. The estimation is that it could actually get worse this year because you scrap the COVID-19 levy. There is, the VAT system has been, rationalized, and the expectation is that government is banging its hope on what they call compliance, which significantly government is hoping to get a lot of money from that angle. And so if you ask me how this will affect government's revenue, already government is in a very difficult situation where it is unable to meet its tax revenue, right, or its total revenue target, or its revenue target. But you could see also expenditure expected to rise because of the debt servicing obligation we are actually tied to this year. And so you ask me, can government afford this? It depends, because we've already heard from COPEC who are saying that should prices rise to, let's say, 15 cedis per litre, for petrol, we might see government coming to revise some of the taxes. But you ask yourself, when government comes in, which of the taxes are they going to suspend? Because we've done a number of years without 1 cedi additional levy on the export price of fuel. At the moment, that levy is very huge. 1 cedi, for instance, as an additional revenue. There was no sunset clause when that tax handle was being introduced. So you ask yourself, in this very period where we are facing uncertainties because of geopolitical, tensions and all of that, is government going to suspend that 1 cedi additional levy it's introduced last year when we had the windfall? Because per where we are likely to be at 15 cedis and the 16 cedis, which will be the level that we were before we got the windfall and government decided to come in and tax 1 cedi additional levy. But in terms of revenue, should government decide to take this, the estimation is that you could be losing millions of Ghana cedis. But we've done it before. We've been here before. We've had a government that did it before. So the question is, are they going to do it? And if they decide to do it, how long is the suspension going to be? Right.
And that brings me to my next question. Should it be a temporal suspension from where you said? Do you think if the suspension comes into effect, should it be temporal or should it be scrapped altogether?
If you're talking about the price stabilization and recovery levy, what we know per history is that it's always a suspension for a period of time. Right. We've never seen a complete scrapping, right? And so if government is coming in, the expectation is that it will be for a period of time until, let's say, we get back to a very good trajectory before they begin to bring it back. And so if government is willing to go on this tangent, we are projecting that it could be a temporary suspension, but not a permanent scrapping like we've seen for COVID-19 levy or any of the levies. At the moment, if government decides to scrap anything, I don't think it will be the price stabilization and recovery levy. Or if consumers are looking for that magnitude of relief, possibly they are looking at the 1 cedi additional levy that was introduced when the windfall came. Now, that windfall has been eroded. So consumers are beginning to feel the impact. So is government going to say that, well, we've reached the point where we think that we've collected enough? Because if you look at that revenue, government has, within a very short period of time, government has been able to get in excess of 5 billion cedis from that for the introduction of 1 cedi additional levy on the export price of fuel. So with the price stabilization and recovery levy, the estimation is that if government decides to come in to actually use it as an intervention, it will be a temporary, suspension, but not a complete scrapping. It will be interesting to see government comes in and say that we are completely scrapping the price stabilization and recovery levy. What we know is that they usually will suspend it for a period of time, and when the situation begins to calm, then they bring it back. But you've got other levies that possibly maybe consumers will begin to point it out and say that, well, we want this one out, we want that one. Because remember, during the Russia-Ukraine war, we got GPRTU and a number of associations coming out with a tall list of taxes that they felt that they were not necessary at that crisis moment, and they feel that government could have done away with those, could do away with those taxes and say that, well, scrap these taxes and give us relief for a period of time, and when we get back to the good trajectory, then you bring them back. We are not there yet. What we are seeing is IES saying that one component of the taxes on the price build-up should be taken away. I think it's about 16 pesos or 17 pesos. I'm not so sure of the exact amount, but it's not even up to 20 pesos. But looking at where we are, the slightest or the smallest change will still make an impact.
Isaac Ofieje is the head of research here at JoyNews. Thank you very much for that analysis, as always. You're still watching The Pulse here on JoyNews. And, of course, as we've been bringing you, the price of fuel has gone up on the world market, and the IES is arguing that suspending the price stabilization and recovery levy would be consistent with the policy objective behind its introduction as a counter-cyclical measure to cushion consumers during periods of rising fuel prices. And joining me now is Smith Boahin. He's the senior research and policy analyst with the IES. Welcome to the program. Grateful for your time this afternoon. Why are you proposing the suspension of the price stabilization levy? Kindly unmute your microphone so we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, IES is calling for the suspension of the price stabilization recovery levy because obviously we believe that in as much as it's significant is a little minute, but we are looking at the cumulative impact in terms of increasing liters of fuel, basically. But then before then, we also need to appreciate the current status of our energy industry, and for that matter, gasoline and gas oil. We all understand that there is a geopolitical tension in the Middle East, obviously, and such escalation is having a cascading effect in the petroleum downstream in Ghana, for example. Yes, it is obviously a fact that we are not importing our petroleum product directly from the Straits of Hormuz, but then there is an indirect cost buildup as long as Brent crude oil is the benchmark for petroleum product pricing in the world. And so, as of this morning, per barrel of crude was in between $101 to $105 as of this morning. And, if you compute that into the landed cost of fuel, obviously, the fuel is on the rise. The first pricing window this month saw an increase in about 13% for export price for petrol, and then about 28% or so for the export price for diesel. And so, Ghana being about 60% net importers of fuel, we need to be able to cushion the consumer at the end of the day. As rightly captured, I think in 2021 or so, there was a suspension of the price stabilization recovery levy, especially after the effects of the COVID pandemic. And somewhere last year too, there was about 1 to 2 months suspension of the levy. So yes, there wouldn't be much. At the moment, I think the levy is around 16% for gas oil, and then 16% for that of gas oil, and 14% for gasoline. You mean 14% for gasoline. You mean, as I earlier indicated, you may not look at it in terms of its per liter effect, but when you look at it cumulatively, for example, the large trucks that require chunks amount of liters, that will have some sort of relief for them going forward in these times where we don't even know where this conflict is going to come down yet. So yes, that's the position of IES now.
If it's not going to make much of a difference, then why suspend it in the first place?
It is going to make a difference, as I pointed out. If you look at it on per liter, yes, it's something small. But if you look at it in terms of cumulative figures, it's something substantial. And in this time where small is equally better than none, obviously, and anything that will help the welfare of consumers is greatly welcome. We heard as at this moment GPRTU also and others are going to look at how they can adjust their transport prices upwards. So if we could have a 50% difference in terms of downward adjustment and in transport price increment as a result of the suspension of the price stabilization recovery levy, that is some sort of relief for. And we must also take note that this is just the first window of price adjustment for the month of March. We are all praying and hoping that the conflict de-escalate, or we have a ceasefire. Then probably situations in the downstream, and as far as export prices is concerned, we'll be able to stabilize. Yeah.
Right. Smith, don't go yet. Let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Holofa. He's an international relations expert. Grateful for your time, Dr. Holofa. There, of course, this crisis in the Middle East is bringing all sorts of issues. And here in Ghana, we cannot escape from it. We've seen other countries saying that they are going to release millions in barrels of oil reserves. What should Ghana do to cushion ourselves?
There are not so many options we have now, except that you look at the pricing of the petroleum product and try and take some of the gas components out of it. There is also the issue of the marketing companies taking some cuts to their profit. Those may be the short-term ones that we have. But in the long term, I think that's a country and that's a region in West Africa. We have to be able to build enough strategic reserves to last for considerable periods. So, for instance, through cooperation with our neighboring countries, we should invest more in refinery capacity that enable us to produce more here and trade among ourselves, have regional mechanisms that allow us to trade among themselves. That will be the long-term solution, that we must begin to think strategically, knowing that our own energy security is part of our development process. So in the short term, you don't have so many options. In as much as you have some refineries coming up within the South region, it will be difficult to implement policies that drastically reduce the fuel prices. So they will go up. Government may take the option of reducing their own taxations and so forth and so on. But I think that the long-term solution is to have better strategic planning in terms of having energy security within the South region.
And what lessons can Ghana learn from this particular crisis happening far away in the Middle East, yet it is trickling down here?
Now, so as a country and as a developing country, we must come to the understanding that we live in a global community, particularly within this ongoing geopolitical situation where you have these geopolitical events become more and more. So you have to prepare, build the capacity to be able to respond to some of these shocks. And as I said, we must learn that events like this are going to push us more to think of regional solutions, particularly in West Africa. So Ghana must be a champion of pushing West Africa to have a common regional market for energy, common storage facilities, pipelines that allow us to trade more of, refine and trade more of oil and gas within the South region, so that in cases like this, we could rely on our own infrastructure, we could rely on our own trading mechanism that absorb us of the shock to this magnitude.
Right.
If we don't learn from this, then we'll continue to always come to have these debates when events like this happen.
Dr. Hlovo, don't go yet. Smith Banahine is with the IAS. I believe you're still with me, Smith.
Yes, indeed, I'm here.
Right. We've been made aware that we do not import a lot of oil from the Middle East. We mainly import oil from Europe. Mainly from Europe. And now, yes, for example, Russian oil, there have been lifting of sanctions by the U.S., giving permission for countries to purchase Russian oil. So why then are we really being affected from the Strait of Hormuz, where we don't import a lot of oil from?
Great. Brilliant question. Obviously, we don't physically, our vessels don't physically use the Strait of Hormuz, obviously. Ours is mainly Europe, Rotterdam, and the likes. But as long as Brent crude oil remains the global benchmark for the pricing of crude, which obviously Ghana is a part of that, then we are going to feel the indirect effect of pricing shocks and pricing hikes. And some of those shocks can be attributed to what is currently happening now in the Middle East due to the conflict and the subsequent scarcity of the product. And so, yes, even though we are not importing from the Strait of Hormuz, the ripple effect is that the Brent price and the WTI have seen an upwards increase. And that is a benchmark for the pricing of petroleum products. And we, as net importers, are about 60%, the last I checked, we are about 60% net importers of crude. And so any shock in that will obviously have an effect in the export prices that we are experiencing here. Whatever that the BDCs are going to incur in terms of their landed cost, they are going, consumers or OMCs are going to borrow the cost of that. So that is the relationship. It is not a direct relationship as in that because bombing is happening in Iran and Israel and the Middle East for that matter, vessels, we cannot get crude. The availability is there for us, but the indirect effect is that the prices in terms of Brent crude benchmark, which as at this minute is 101 barrels per dollar, means that we are going to feed into that. And when that happens, the effect is the prices we are seeing this morning. I think after this morning, gas oil is around 15.99 Ghana cedis per liter, and that of gasoline export price for petrol is around 12 cedis or so, 12.49 per liter. As I indicated earlier, a sharp increase in that of diesel and petrol as well. So this is the relationship that exists between what is happening far away in the Middle East as with respect to what we are experiencing here in the country. Then the issue has to do with how we can consolidate what we have, our refinery and production volumes in the country, so that we are not easily affected by the shocks of these exogenous factors. Because if you are importing a chunk of your refined product from overseas, it means that any issues, any trending matters in terms of geopolitics will be able to affect you directly. And this has been the trend consistently over the period. So it is about time for IES has always been maintaining, for example, that since 2018, yes, TOR hasn't been effective, but there is a complete, a halfway turnaround now at TOR. Government must pay more attention, to invest more into TOR, see how we TOR was done with the first performance test of its CDU. How can we revamp it? How can we increase its capacity to get more? And then also when we look at the regional base, as it was said earlier, how can we trade amongst ourselves? Dangote refinery is there, but how accessible is such products for Ghana, for example? Right. It may be available, but how accessible is it? We know Central is making about 30% of what we are consuming locally, but how significant is that to cushion us from some of these shocks? How are we building our buffers and all of that? So we need to look at the conversation from the angles that make us truly independent from these external shocks. Right. And geopolitical dynamics.
I'll come back to you, don't go yet, but let me bring back Dr. Holovo, who's still with me. He's an international relations expert. Dr. Holovo, this conflict has entered its third week. As we know, there's little, intra-trade between Africans. It's even difficult to hold a Ghanaian passport to freely travel within Africa. A foreigner from Europe or America can freely travel within Africa than you holding an African passport. Do you think that this conflict should give us a reflection that, for example, we should be able to trade within ourselves on the African continent? We should easily be able to go to Nigeria, to go to other oil-producing countries within Africa to get oil, so that we are not hugely affected by global shocks such as these ones?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that for a very long time we have seen African unity, and we have talked about it as an ideology, as a sort of philosophy, but it has come to a point where we must realize that it is actually the practical solution to most of the problems that we are facing in Africa. So if you take the conflict like this and you see the effect it is having on oil prices across the West African survey, then you come to one solution. Nigeria produces huge volumes of oil per day. Equally, Ghana produces some level of oil. If we had developed a regional market that allow us to trade among ourselves, we have developed oil and gas infrastructure that allow us to have a common framework which we price oil and gas in comparatively different pricing mechanism from what happened across the globe. This effect may not have the effect they are having across the South region. So it is time we put in the work to ensure that African unity is a solution to the problems that we are facing as Africans. Because you can't have the huge reserves of oil across Africa, even if you extend the argument beyond West Africa to places like Angola and other countries that are producing oil, and yet we are not able to coordinate policy, put in the infrastructure that allow us to refine our oil and trade it here. We have to export the raw commodity to places like Europe, to Asia to be refined, and then we go back and buy them. So we must come to one solution, that the current geopolitical situation make Africa unity an important issue that we can no longer wait. We need to understand that either we unite or we perish. On our being isolated, being on our individual states as countries, we are unable to withstand the shocks that will be coming. And this war is not the end of it. There are more to come. So for me, where I stand is that African unity, African integration is the practical pathway to the development of Africa. If we ignore it, we may be struggling individually to try and develop, we will not go that far.
Dr. Ishmael Holovo, thank you very much. He's an international relations expert. And earlier, we heard from Smith Banahene, who is the senior research and policy analyst at the Institute of Energy Security's IES. Away from fuel, some aggrieved supporters of the National Democratic Congress have locked up the district office of the National Health Insurance Authority at Ejisu in the Ashanti region, protesting what they describe as the neglect of party loyalists in government appointments. The supporters reportedly stormed the premises of the NHIA office and locked the facility, temporarily disrupting operations. They claim that individuals who worked tirelessly for the party ahead of the 2024 elections have been overlooked in the distribution of government positions. According to the demonstrators, the alleged neglect has created frustration among party supporters within the constituency. They believe their contributions to the party's electoral success have not been recognized, hence their action. Let's take you live to the NHIA office, where my colleague Nana Boachi Yadom is on standby for us. Nana, has calm restored to the area since you went there?
Kenneth, from the look of things over here, all the indication we have is that calm has been partially restored at the NHIA office here at the Ejisu municipality, but you can see that there are still the red bands that are being flanked all over the doors of the National Health Insurance. This is the Ejisu Jabin district office, and where about 15 macho men came in to lock up the office of the manager. The indication we have is that these are aggrieved party loyalists who believe that the party from the central government has neglected the grassroots of the party, because they believe that with the outgoing manager, they want a native of the Ejisu community to be appointed as the new manager. But unfortunately, the central government has brought in someone else who is not a native of the Ejisu community. Hence the anger to which has led them to protest, particularly today, and then bringing these red bandages to the municipal NHIA office. But this is not the only place. This is just an introduction. When you come in here, some of the few things that they've been able to do. They temporarily halted the work of the NHIA staff due to the frustration and anger that they came in with. But then few moments after, they have been able to restore calm. What we are being told is that we can't interact with any of the staff members here. No other person can speak to us due to some centralized communication that they have as an institution, and therefore we must only rely on communication from the central communication team of the National Health Insurance. But then we are taking you to the place of importance, which is the place where the individuals locked up completely, which happens to be the office of the NHIA manager in the Ejisu district office. And this is the office that they locked up. They've locked it up completely with stakes, and then they've also cladded with some red bandages. And so when you come in here, you would not be able to enter. We are being told that the new manager was supposed to get into the office, but unfortunately, when he heard of the attempt to lock up the place, he was unable to come or resume work today. And looking at the condition over here, he would not be able to come until a proper investigation is being conducted into this particular incident. It is quite unfortunate because we came to meet a lot of people who were coming to seek some form of services from the NHIA, but unfortunately, due to the circumstances which the staff had found themselves in, they could not attend to them. They are only attending to a few because a few of them who have some critical conditions and particularly need their services. But then very shortly, we are being told that they are going to close down the office for investigators to conduct their own investigations into it. We're being told that they also locked it with some keys, with some master keys, and so no matter what you do, you can't open this particular door, except for a breakage, which we're being told would have to come right after investigation is being conducted into what had led to this particular lockdown. And so, Kenneth, this is the situation at the NHIA office of the Ejisu municipality.
Have you heard any word from the NDC leadership in that particular constituency?
Well, we've been trying our very best to reach out to the constituency chairman. He tells us that he cannot speak to us, but then what they are doing right now is to call the said individuals into order and then listen to their concerns. For him, it comes as a surprise that the individuals did not reach out to the party hierarchy here, not even to the municipality executive, before embarking on this particular protest. And so what the party is going to do is to reach out to these individuals and listen to their concerns. We've also tried to reach the regional chairman. That has not been fruitful. What we are also trying to do right now is to reach out to the municipality executive. Apparently, the NHI office is just some few minutes away from the municipality executive's office, and so we're doing our best to reach out. But what we are being told is that police is going to come in very soon and then help the officers here to lock up the place for investigation to commence into what led to this particular lockdown, while the party on the other hand is also going to reach out to the said individuals and then listen to their concerns and find a way to resolve it amicably.
Speaking of police, how is the security situation like where you are at the moment?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that after the incident, we've not seen any security personnel here. We were expecting to reach here and then get to see some form of tight security, because when we spoke to the staff here off camera, the indication that they are giving to us is that they fear for their lives, because the people who came here were thugs, and some of them in masks, some of them who were really heavily built, and so for them to stay here without any form of protection leaves them to some form of fear. But unfortunately, they still don't have any security men over here to protect them. But then we're being told that very soon, some of them are going to come in here to help them lock down the place completely. I think that what they have been able to resolve at the moment is to temporarily lock down the place so that an investigation can commence. Security, very, very unfortunate that there's no security personnel recorded to be here at the moment.
And have you cited any individuals in and around the perimeter of the NHIA office at Ejisu who fit the description of the people who besieged the office earlier?
Well, we have not met any of these individuals. The little description that we have had from the staff here is that right after they embarked on this particular operation, they all moved out quickly. So for fear that there might be any police enforcement team to come in and apprehend them. And so it was a quick move right after locking down the place. They quickly moved from the NHIA office. What we are being told is that they assembled somewhere around the streets of Ejisu before moving into the NHIA office, and so we are also going to do well to move in there and then also get to speak to them if possible. But then also, as I indicated earlier, the NDC has told us that they're going to engage the said individuals and listen to their concerns so that they can resolve this particular issue amicably. The concern is on the appointment of a new manager. They say they want a native as manager so that they do not feel neglected from the appointments made by the central government. So these are some of the things that the local or the constituency NDC would have to deal with in listening to the concerns of these individuals. We are also going to do well to reach out to them and then also hear more that they have to tell us.
Nana, don't go yet, because there's another story of particular concern I would want to speak to you about. But in the meantime, the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council has begun rolling out a fee-fixing initiative across selected mining districts in the Ashanti region following revelations from JoyNews' expose, Tax for Galamsey. The initiative is aimed at briefing stakeholders and businesses operating in mining communities on newly approved fee-fixing resolutions designed to strengthen local administration and improve revenue mobilization. JoyNews sources say the program will engage local authorities, business operators and other stakeholders in mining districts to ensure compliance with the revised fee structure while promoting transparency in the collection of levies. We will take you live to the Ashanti region shortly and speak to Nana Boachi Yadom again, but before that, here are excerpts of our documentary Tax for Galamsey.
At the bank, Benjamin himself took the 3,000 Ghana cedis and deposited it into an account labeled Main IGF. Every step was filmed, he receiving the cash, filling the deposit slip, and even the teller processing it. Benjamin made photocopies of the bank receipt and handed the copy to us. We have now successfully purchased registration. Proof that this was not an unofficial backdoor operation, but an organized, systematic revenue pipeline built into official financial structures. The deeper we went into the investigation, the more we uncover the extortion network. This time, we visited the NADMO office hours later. Here, we met Evans Amankwa, the municipal NADMO director, the same officer whose men we had earlier seen at Red's residence. He welcomed us without hesitation, fully aware of our mission because one of his men had told him about us. He inspected the receipt we had from the bank.
You're out of outfit here. You're in higher reclamation. You say 1 line for most of my billions. I'm being baby. I'm free paid for machine. The area one more for long catasso. On a cata, we use once and the operations as well. So they want to
This direction was to confirm the amount to be taken. His officer, in another meeting room, requested that 2,000 cedis be paid to avert any ambush from NADMO officials.
Next week. See, next week Monday nearby Nanka. Director support. Yabani ye. Say name of 1,000 Nanka for the 1,000 Nanka. Nanka Sasa
After negotiating, he agreed to the 1,000 cedis. This was paid to the lead negotiator at the director's office. A sticker available to us is dated 18 August 2025 and marked number 097, which belongs to one of the miners.
Where date now was 18 August 2025.
How much did you say?
3,000 per each.
My colleague Nana Boakye-Yiadom is joining us once again with details of the new initiatives being rolled out by the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council. Nana, run us through.
Well, this is a fee-fixing initiative that was launched by the Regional Coordinating Council 2 days after the JoyNews expose attacks for Galamsey. It was through a meeting that the Regional Coordinating Council, led by the Ashanti Regional Minister Frank Amoakohene, held with all municipal chief executives in the Ashanti region, following the disturbing revelation of how the Amansia Central is taxing illegal mining activities in the district. Well, today is the rollout of the fee-fixing initiative, which is taking place in some 3 mining districts, including the Amansia Central, Amansia South, and one last district in the Amansia Enclave also. Now, this fee-fixing initiative is to regulate the taxes that local assemblies take from various businesses that come into their district. Now, under this fee-fixing initiative, the district assemblies are compelled to seek registration licenses of businesses, and even more particular, individuals who seek to do mining activities in the district, and not any mining activity but small-scale mining. Now, the disturbing trend is that some of these individuals who come in to mine in the area come without their business registration certificates, and so they go ahead to register for machines and then end up using them for illegal mining activities, because right after investigations, it happens to be the fact that they do not have license at all. And so under the new fee-fixing initiative, the District Assembly will be compelled to inspect registration certificates and also impose taxes in accordance to the Local Government Act, and not to impose any tax that is contrary to that of the Local Government Act. And so this is the particular fee-fixing initiative that is being rolled out today by the Ashanti Regional Minister Frank Amoakohene and the Regional Coordinating Council, beginning from the Amansia Central District of the Ashanti region.
Nana Boakye-Yiadom, thank you very much. Meanwhile, the government has pledged to launch investigations into the matters raised in the 30-minute documentary, and so far we have had conflicting timelines as to when they will finalize investigations. Pakwesi Shandov is the Director of Communications at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry and is joining me in the studio with more. Pakwesi, it's been 35 days since this expose by my colleague Nana Boakye-Yiadom. We visited the sector minister, the local government minister, who assured us that the recommendations which were contained in our petition here at JoyNews will be looked into and worked on. 35 days later, nothing has happened. Why?
Well, a lot has actually happened, except that we are yet to communicate the final closure and the overall conclusion that we want to put to that particular issue. A lot has happened in the sense that the expose gave us recourse to, as it were, reform some of the peculiar issues at the various districts and assemblies, and so that currently is being done. What I'm sure you mean by, so much hasn't happened, is the fact that we have not seen the final pronouncement, the verdict on the DCE who was, of course, involved, right? But it's not a complex issue, except that government is meticulously assessing the information by way of the response from those affected and indeed all the relevant facts. The last time we spoke, I did indicate a timeline. I'm sure that we have surpassed that timeline. And so one may be wondering, are we really pussyfooting the issue, or truthfully we want to get to the bottom of it?
That was on the 1st of February.
Absolutely.
You told my colleague, Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson, that it would take a week, it will conclude in a week, today you told the same Ejisu NHIA Thompson that it will be concluded by the end of the first quarter, which is by the end of this month.
Right.
What's happening?
Exactly. I'm saying that it is, first of all, the thoroughness of work that we intend to do, or let me say that we are doing, because it's not just about pronouncing guilt. I'm sure maybe, and not to sound condescending, but that literally is the public expectation, that a DCE has been implicated in an expose. Therefore, government should come out immediately and say, because of the alleged misconduct, you are fired or you are sanctioned and all of that. But there is more to that particular issue than, as it were, the metering out of the sanctions. Because I'm saying, I'm saying it advisedly, if the DC were to be removed now, and then the structures that are in place, the operational protocols have not been reformed in a way that would prevent it, then maybe it will be much ado about nothing. So we are being comprehensive, and that is why there is the extension, if you like. Indeed, truthfully, I did indicate that it was going to be 1 week, but of course, there's been reason for us to extend the process further. And so let's wait till the end of this, the first quarter. Effectively, that's like some 15 days away from now, right? Yes, ending of March effectively. I'm sure that would have complete finality and closure on that particular issue.
Is it taking long because you seem not to have a lot of evidence in your investigations, or what is really taking it so long, these investigations you talk about?
So you would realize that the levies that were charged in that particular respect, the response from the Assembly is that these are long-standing levies that actually predate this particular administration. Indeed, they had been collected in the past and in previous years. If you move away from that jurisdiction and you go into other enclaves, you realize that indeed, at so many other places too, similar levies are being charged. And therefore, because of how widespread the issues are, you need a reform that would harmonize everything, so that at the end of the day, you will not stop the bleeding here, and then tomorrow you realize that there's a leakage elsewhere. So because we want to, and of course, I think we are all very clear. I mean, we have 16 administrative regions in the country. Look at the number of districts embedded in each one of them. If there are levies of this nature, and we can say from the expose there is an issue that has to be attended to, it will require more time to overhaul the existing protocols so that these things do not emerge again. So the extensiveness of the issue is the reason for the prolonged, I don't want to call it a delay, maybe the prolonged time that we are exhausting to bring finality to the issue. But like I said, hopefully this time around, I'm hoping we don't have to come back to it again. By the end of this quarter, the matter would have been properly concluded and rounded up.
Should we take your word for that, that in 15 days there's going to be a finality to these investigations?
Absolutely. I think you can take my word on that.
Okay. Let's talk about other matters. The lithium deal, there's been little to nothing being heard of it in the last few days. What's happening?
Well, we have taken note of the concerns as well, and let me seize the opportunity to convey the assurances of the Sector Minister, Honorable Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, to all investors across the length and breadth of the country, and indeed the entirety of the globe. The concern is that the ratification has delayed unduly. Therefore, Ghana's narrative of being a pristine destination for mining investment is only a hoax, because Ghana comes to the fore, woos investors. Then when it comes to issues like ratification, there is dragging and feet and all of that. Indeed, that is not the case at all. Due diligence is the focus of the government when it comes to agreements or deals of this nature. And the lithium deal is no exception. And that is why you would remember, I mean, the minister had to record a deal, introduce a new legislation that will regulate royalties, which currently is enforced, by the way, because as I speak to you now, we are using the sliding scale royalties mechanism, of course, taking 5 to 12%. It applies to the lithium deal, which is before Parliament. Currently, it's actually before the Parliament's Select Committee on Lands and Natural Resources, and we are hoping that before Parliament rises, the bill would have been hopefully ratified under the circumstances. And so we understand the concerns and the fears that have emanated from all the quarters, but by the end of the next rising of Parliament, if I have to put it that way, the agreement would have been ratified.
Speaking of the sliding scale bit, there were pushbacks from foreign governments, United States, Absolutely. United Kingdom, and China. And finally, it matured into law.
Right.
Since it matured into law, are those pushbacks still coming? Are they still pushing back against this?
Of course. The agitations, for the want of a better word, or the concerns have not evaporated simply because the bill has now matured into law. The concerns are still very much rife because for those concerned parties, they feel that that particular arrangement is a disincentive to investment, especially within the mining community. But we have also indicated that the goal of that arrangement is to protect the investor when global prices fall, and also help the country reap full benefits when there is a hike, if you like it, or there's a rise in global prices of some of these commodities, and so effectively it benefits both parties, and it's a good deal because of the fact that it benefits the two parties involved. So the pushbacks still keep coming, but government is resolute, and like I indicated earlier, I do not think that there's going to be a change, or let me not say I do not think, so that it will not look like I'm the one saying it. Government is actually not going back on the existing arrangements whatsoever.
Let's talk about NIMOS.
National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat.
Yes. NIMOS. We've not heard about NIMOS for a brief period, and of course we cannot not hear from NIMOS because I mean, illegal mining is a canker that is destroying our environment, and you're a part of NIMOS. What's happening with NIMOS?
So much has been happening actually recently. If you look at all the activities of NIMOS in the recent while, the most significant one of them is the full-scale nationwide deployment, which has begun. Remember, I indicated not too long ago that the deployment, the full-scale nationwide 24-hour surveillance deployment would be done also by the end of the first quarter. As we speak, it has actually begun. Indeed, certain parts of the western region, as I speak now, for the purposes of the sensitivity of the operations, I do not want to disclose the exact location, but NIMOS personnel have actually pitched camps at specific locations in the western region where they are staying there permanently, operating without any interruption. So indeed, it has begun. And like I said, though Galamsey basically is across the length and breadth of the country, there are prominent and prevalent flashpoints, places where the issue is more dire. And so those places are targets now. If you look at all 16 regions, 6 of them are endemic. You're looking at the western, north, central, eastern, Ashanti, and of course some upper parts of the northern enclaves as well. All right, but the western, north regions are the areas of prime concern, and that is why the deployment has started in these areas. The Secretariat has deployed the personnel. Rooms have been rented for them. I don't want to go into the fine details and all of that, but they have been well catered for. They have been housed appropriately. Indeed, even as of this dawn, there was a reinforcement that was added to the team that has already been deployed, all within the spirit of the nationwide full-scale deployment. And so we are hoping that with this kind of intervention, the results will be more impactful, because what we have been seeing, some critics have referred to it as a touch-and-go approach. NIMOS comes, they leave, the illegal miners come, and then at the end of the day, it looks like there's much ado about nothing. We want to now concentrate the efforts, and that is why we are doing the permanent scale, full, uninterrupted deployment across the length and breadth.
Just last month, NIMOS arrested 5 armed individuals who were posing as officers of NIMOS. Where are they?
Well, as I speak, all of those impersonators, they have currently been processed. All of them are assisting with investigations, obviously towards prosecution, because one thing we have always said is that the entity of NIMOS is not one that anybody, even if you belonged to the party or you were close to the corridors of power, we do not expect anybody at any given point whatsoever to compromise the integrity of the outfit known as NIMOS. And more often than not, most of these people who impersonate the establishment of NIMOS, unfortunately, they happen to be members of the ruling government, as unfortunate as it may be. And that is clearly worrying. But the disposition of the president and the sector minister on the matter is very simple, that look, regardless of your association to the party, we expect everybody who is interested in the enterprise of mining to do the right thing. So investigations are ongoing in that regard, and we'll offer closure at the appropriate time.
The administrator of the Minerals Development Fund, Hannah Ejisu, not long ago said that she was poisoned when she started her fight against illegal mining. We saw how visible she was in the fight against illegal mining. There are concerns that there are forces within the NDC who are unhappy with the fight against illegal mining by NDC administrators. Is that the case? Are you getting that sense within the party and within the government?
We've always said, especially on this particular platform, I've always indicated that, look, the fight against illegal mining goes existentially beyond the ground troops or the small boys. Particularly, it is the kingpins, the masterminds, those who are actually the facilitators and instigators, the big men in society. And it is not all of them who are necessarily politically exposed. Some of them actually come from other fabrics and layers of society where power is very concentrated. All right. So all of these, circles of people who may have interest in the enterprise of illegal mining definitely will do a lot to thwart the efforts of government and to derail the course. But as these things keep happening, you only have to learn to manage the situation and then, stick to the books like the sector minister keeps doing. It's only political will that you need. That is the fortitude of heart to say that, look, the external pressures all the time, at every given point, somebody is impressing upon you to do something that otherwise does not benefit the interest of the country. But you need to stand your ground, just like the president has said. No appointee, nobody in government is expected to mine or be involved in any illegal mining activity. That same vision or that same, if you like, philosophy is what is embedded in the minister. And so we remain politically resolute. And so all of those pressures from wherever it is coming from is well attended to. And very soon, I'm sure we'll be done with this fight against illegal mining.
So those pressures are not from within government?
They come from everywhere. They come from all quarters. It could even be coming from journalists. Assuming there is a journalist like yourself, perhaps, who maybe has an interest in mining.
I don't use me as
of course, no, but I'm saying it comes from all quarters because you see, the thing about mining is that it's a very lucrative enterprise. We've always said that. All right, so the stakeholders and those who actually want to venture are varied and many. Everybody has a stake and an interest. So it's not necessarily about maybe people in the National Democratic Congress alone. No, it's not even about people across any divide whatsoever. It's really so many people having conflicting interests, but the sector minister is on top of the job and will get the desirable results.
We hope so. Thank you very much. Pakwesi Shandov is the Director of Communications with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. You're still watching The Pulse here on JoyNews. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're welcome back. Let's talk health this afternoon because over 19% of Ghana's population faces a growing threat of their kidney health. Multiple factors are driving this crisis. Beyond heavy metals entering the food chain through illegal mining, health experts are warning of a silent public poisoning unfolding in parts of the country. The danger stems from the open sale of unregulated chemical mixtures by unlicensed street drug peddlers. One disturbing example is a toxic cocktail marketed as a health cleanser, popularly known in Hausa as Madara Sukudai. Preliminary investigations by the Department of Pharmacology at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST, revealed that the concoction contains substances harmful to human health. I'll be back to talk about how your food could be poisoning your organs, especially your kidney, shortly. But first, let's bring back that report by my colleague Ohemin Tewia highlighting the dangers of consuming Madara Sukudai.
Madara Sukudai has endeared itself to many Ghanaians, especially the youth. It is believed to contain heart-cleansing potency by patrons of the drink. The concoction is commonly sold in zongos and auto mechanic shops. It is often sold by some Nigerian nationals and sometimes Ghanaians. However, an acute toxicity test conducted by the Department of Pharmacology at KNUST revealed the drink is toxic, and it was found to contain acetone, zinc chloride and ethanol.
Used rats for this experiment, and we gave different doses from low to medium and then high doses of the product to the group of rats in each cage, and within 24 hours all the rats died.
The dead rats exhibited some uneasiness a few seconds after taking the concoction, which also melted plastic takeaway bowls.
Preliminary discovered that the product contains organic solvent like acetone, zinc chloride, and ethanol. Just to give a fair idea to the layman, acetone is usually found in the nail polish that the women use for the acrylic nails, so we don't take it in. Then zinc chloride is also corrosive in terms of organic solvents and other things.
Even before the comprehensive investigations are completed, Professor Mrs. Dankwa wants the public to stay away from sukudai since it poses a significant danger to human health.
Some of these things take time, like chronic toxicity studies. You should do at least 1 to 3 months, and to be sure of what is actually happening, because as I said, we will take out the organs and then do further biochemical tests, measure the liver enzymes, and look at all the cells under the microscope, do some hematology, etc. And so we just advise that people stay away from it.
The investigation follows the arrest of a trader who deals in chemicals used in the preparations of the sukudai drink. Ashanti Regional Deputy Security Coordinator Alhaji Inje Abdullah Umar led the operation to the arrest of the trader at Abuabo.
What has been given to a rodent in less than 24 hours died. You don't know who are consuming it, but they are Ghanaians. And the most interesting aspect is that those selling it, when you tell them to drink it, they will not, even if you force them.
Meanwhile, the Ashanti Regional Office of National Security is liaising with other counterparts to rid Ghana of sukudai. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Dietary reporting.
Let's come back into the studio and speak to Susanna Kombe. She is a senior dietitian at UGMC. Levlin Kunedu Esiedu is a project lead for advocacy for mandatory front of pack warning food labeling. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Susanna, I want to start with you. I think we're beginning to learn about how our food consumption can actually affect our kidney. How widespread is the kidney crisis in Ghana pertaining to the food that we eat?
Well, from records and the cases we manage, from where I'm coming from, we are getting a lot of kidney diseases on the rise. We have even little ones or kids coming up with kidney issues. And basically, we say ignorance is one of the reasons. And inappropriate eating practices or food choices are one of the triggers. Because the Ghanaian personality goes out there and is mostly concerned about the taste of what they are eating. Some just look at what a celebrity is marketing, and then they are interested in consuming it as well. We are not concerned about the details of what is in the food. And that brings a gap. And this gap is one of the major reasons why we are getting kidney diseases. Because in health and food, you are really what you eat.
But it's quite difficult if for example, I go to an eatery, a restaurant, a chop bar, or any place that I can find food to eat, to know that what I'm about to consume can be dangerous to my kidney. As a dietitian, what shouldn't we eat, and what should we eat if we want to protect our kidney?
So we say that you can eat everything, all right? But the key emphasis is moderation. Yeah. Now, your choices should be based on having a good education. And that is why we are out there. Now, I can't just say, stop eating this, and I can't say, just eat that. But we try to advocate healthy eating in form of you doing whole grains. Because one of the major causes of kidney diseases in Ghana is diabetes. Another is hypertension. And then obesity also sets in, aside the genetic factors. Now, we are advocating that if you have good control of your hypertension and your diabetes, and your weight is not above the normal for your height, then you will have a good control of not getting into the chronic kidney disease state. So a healthy diet should comprise whole grains. And when we say whole grains, we have our maize or our corn out there. The corn products are whole grains. However, the marketing strategy has become a bit competitive. So we can say corn is whole grain, but in the preparation method, you have it polished. Let me use an example. I can have corn flour milled and prepare akpele, which is a local dish of the Voltarians. And I can still have this corn flour milled, and I'll prepare corn dough out of it and prepare banku. But there are two ways of doing it. A Ghanaian might actually take the akpele, just the flour raw, and cook that component of it. Another would take the corn dough, sieve it before preparing the banku. Now, when we compare the two, it's not whole anymore for the banku because you've taken out the fiber. So that does not make it a whole grain. We have our millet, we have our sorghum on the market. They are whole grains. However, if I take my millet and I mill it and then I sieve it before I prepare my porridge out of it, it doesn't make it a whole grain. We have our wheat on the market. So these are some of the whole grains we can easily go in for. And if I want to take corn porridge, if I don't sieve it, as far as the dough is mashed and the porridge is prepared, that makes a whole. So we have variety of foods that are whole that we can choose from. Aside that, to protect our kidney, we are looking for variety of fruit and vegetables. They have a lot of vitamins, a lot of micronutrients that you need to boost your immunity and to keep you healthy. Aside the wound healing principles they'll bring, they'll also help to transport certain things you need in your system. So a healthy diet should have variety of fruits and vegetables, doing them in moderation, but not in excess.
Right.
So if I go to an eatery and I'm going to do fufu, pounded fufu with my light soup, if my soup is sieved, the fiber is out. So I can advocate for getting some garden eggs, which are whole because they have fiber in them. It's vegetable. Add it and enjoy it. Then we are also looking at you doing less of the sugar-sweetened beverages. In fact, there is this whole craze out there where a lot of people are going for the sugar-sweetened beverages. Some look at just the cost because it's affordable and it's easy on the market. And because of the advertisement that is out there, most people go for it. Because if I'm a celebrity and I market it, what will you do? You also want to have a taste of it. And that will not give you what is healthy to protect your kidney. We have those refined foods such as the sodas. We have biscuits that are very refined and high in sodas. And foods that are high in salt are triggers for you having your BP is not well controlled and messing up your kidney.
Right. I want to come back to leveling.
Yeah.
What do you make of the increasing rise in kidney cases in the country?
That is a public health concern because once the population is not healthy, we are putting the burden of care on the individual, and if this individual is a breadwinner, we are putting the burden of care on the family and putting out the productivity loss in terms of our economic development. And then again, we are harming society because one person being sick, and then you will hear in the news the dialysis machines are not working. You are hearing that those that are working are not even enough for the public. And this puts the strain on the government and other institutions to make available dialysis machines and the other medications that are supposed to help manage the condition. And so kidney diseases, in addition to the other non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension, and the other chronic diseases, and then the cancers, are all contributing to the increase in non-communicable diseases in Ghana. We speak of a percentage of 40 of all of all diseases that are reported in the country, and of course the leading causes of death in the country. And so kidney disease is a matter that we should be talking about. It's come in the news, and it's flagged as a public health concern, and we need to talk about it. And we are talking about it from the food perspective.
And you are the project lead for advocacy mandatory front of pack warning food labeling.
Yeah.
Yes. What does your advocacy group do in situations like this?
Right. So Over the last couple of years, we have realized globally that non-communicable diseases are on the rise, and I have mentioned diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and then other non-communicable diseases contributing to all of these burdens. And for one reason, the foods we eat are a contributing factor. Susanna mentioned the consumption of refined foods. We realize that in processed and ultra-processed foods, that is a food item that you pick from the shelf, we have lots of sugar, a lot of salt, and then some fat to increase palatability, that is the taste of the food item, to preserve the shelf life, and also to make you like the food the more. And all of these added products to the food substance contribute to the non-communicable diseases. So as a group, our emphasis is ensuring that Ghana also adopts a front-of-pack warning labeling policy. It is a short, the policy will bring us logos that are simple messages or designs embossed on ultra-processed and processed foods packaged that one can see. If I go to the aisle and then I am picking an item that is high in sugar beyond the recommended allowance, that product will have that embossment on it, high in sugar. If it is salt, it is going to have high in salt. If it is fat, it is going to have high in fat, so that it helps me as a consumer know the kind of food item I am picking from the aisle, the nutrients of concern that I should be concerned about, and then whether I should take it or even take it in moderation or leave it, that one becomes my responsibility. So our advocacy is placing a burden on the policymaker and government to hasten the process of giving us this front-of-pack mandatory warning labels so that we are able to make informed decision in the shortest possible time. It will help reduce the non-communicable disease and make us responsible at the aisle when we are picking our food, packaged or processed foods.
Right. Let me come to Susanna. We seem to, as a country and as a people, develop the penchant for processed food. Every little bit of food. Even now, meat, people buy processed meat. Meat that is ready to eat, they just tear it and then they put it on their food right away. How dangerous or otherwise is processed food to our health?
So processed food has the possibility of giving you hypertension, because every processed food has what we call the food additives. And they are in the food to enhance the flavor and also to keep it longer on the shelf. And some of these food additives are high sources of sodium and high sources of phosphorus. Now, when you pick it on the shelf and you just eat it, you do not actually read how much is in there. Because for a normal person, we are looking at phosphorus intake of about 700 milligrams per day. But you might pick that product and it might be higher. And when it gets into your system, it begins to actually mess up the vessels, because high levels of sodium will cause the calcification of your vessels. They become stiffened and hardened. And aside that, the more they become more, they begin to worry your kidney. They put a strain on the kidney, because kidney has to filter them out, because that is one of the roles of a kidney anyway, to excrete waste and toxins from your system. And when the kidney is not able to do its work effectively, you realize that you'll be a victim of chronic kidney disease. Aside that, this product, like sodium also in food, is to extend the shelf life. But there are foods out there, because it's meat and it's already processed, it has sodium in it. It gives a taste anyway, but it also to make it last long. So you think you are just eating something little, but we always say little drops of them make a mighty ocean. And it doesn't take a day for you to get sick. It builds up with time. So tiny component like this, without having a fair idea about the composition or the percentages in the food, with time will mess up your system.
So how then do we go about it? Because these days you hear a lot of people say, I'm a very busy person. I work from dawn to dusk. If I come, I cannot, lit my gas cooker and then cook rice or cook whatever. I have this, I can combine them and eat straight away, and then I'm good to go. So how then do we balance protecting our health with our work life?
All right, so one of the easiest way is learning to cook in bulk. Now you can have your weekend or any day you are off from your busy schedules, you can actually cook and pack up food, so that when you come back very tired, you easily pick that food and just warm it. Now, there is a caution we have thrown over the years from the Ghana Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics about microwaving food, because we realize that there is this BPA in food, actually, especially with the bowls or the things we use to microwave. And excess of it is a possible cause for chronic kidney disease. So you should have packages that are BPA free, so that when you microwave even the food you are going to eat, aside preparing it in bulk, you'll not be buying sicknesses for yourself. Then you can do healthy shopping. That is why reading food labels come in. We have whole grains, we have whole brand foods on the market. So if you go and see a registered dietitian or a registered nutritionist, they'll walk you through how to choose right, how to understand the labels. And that is why the front of pack warning labeling is coming in, because we've realized there are also people out there that cannot really understand the nutrition labeling on food. So when the front of pack warning labeling sets in, it makes it very visible. This food is high in saturated fat, this food is high in sugar, this food is high in fat. So don't quickly go in for it. This will meet your intake or not. And you can actually decide to do team cooking. We are in the same facility. I know best that this food helps, but probably you are not good at it. We can actually cook and then exchange. So I'm rubbing your back as you rub mine. And you need to have a list of appropriate things to buy on the market. And the dietitians and the nutritionists are also there to help you to buy right from your grocery list. Buying right, choosing right, prepping in bulk is your go-to.
Right, Levlin, let me come to you.
Right.
I think we can't avoid eating processed food, but the excess of it is what Susanna is talking about. Do you also have any other option that you'd want people to adopt, so that although we are very busy during the day, but we can work around it to ensure that we minimize our intake of processed food as much as we can?
Right. So beyond advocating for front of pack warning labeling, what we can do as individuals is to actually eat what we produce, because we cannot afford to substitute our whole organic food products for ultra-processed and highly processed foods on the market. And so we do not have compromises on eating healthy organic products. And so we have the difficulty now because of nephrotoxins from our galamsey, contaminated chemicals, fertilizers from the soil, but we cannot say that we want to substitute those ones for highly processed and processed foods. Sometimes the packages have labels, they are not even written in English, and then we still have members of our society who can neither read nor write, and so putting labels are not even enough, let alone eating the processed foods that you cannot even read anything about. So we want people to actually take the pains to go to the market, buy our own food products, food stuff from the market, and then those ones that do not come in handy, you can pick them from the aisles, but you should know what you are picking. You should be very inquisitive about what you are picking. And even for snacks, let us do our local snacks. Let us buy our Kofi Brookman and granuts. Let us eat our soakings that you can buy, the gari, add a little bit of sugar and some milk and some granuts over the sodas, the fizzy drinks, and then other ultra-processed foods, the noodles, we should be very concerned about, especially the highly refined ones.
Susanna, earlier you mentioned something that caught my attention about being overweight, which can cause kidney problems for you. We live in a country where people adore weight. When you put on weight, they'll say, "Oh, why if you look very good." If you hear a Ghanaian tell you that you look very good, that means you put on weight. How much of weight should you avoid in order to save your kidney?
How much of weight should you avoid? Let me put it this way. A good weight is good for you, all right, because it helps the body to be balanced. And there is this thing we say malnutrition. Malnutrition can be you being under your weight or over your weight. So there is two sides to it. However, the best weight is we having your height, and then whatever weight you have, we calculate what we call the body mass index. Now, when we calculate it, with the exception of you not being a sports person, when we calculate it and you fall within the ranges of 18.5 to 24.9, we say you have a healthy weight for your height. So constant check of your weight and your height to be able to determine which range you fall in is very important. It goes even all the way to pregnancy, where you need to know your weight before pregnancy and your weight during, because we are able to determine how much of weight you should even gain during pregnancy so that you don't have excess causing issues. So the best thing is not about just looking at someone, thinking the person looks all glorious. All that glitters is not gold. So it's not just the look, but we do the assessment where we calculate the body mass index and we tell whether you are okay, you're in the right weight or not. And remember, it might look all glorious, but within, the person might be healthy. And World Health Organization advocates that we should also preach health at all body sizes, all right? So the fact that somebody might look obese or overweight might not mean the person is not fully or totally healthy. Within, when we run the labs to check the cholesterols or to check the sugars, which we call the glucose, probably that person might be okay. But externally, we see that effect. So visit the hospitals, do regular checks. Let us calculate where you fall, and then we'll help you appropriately.
I'll come back to you, Levin, but I want to stay a bit longer with Susanna. Okay. You also spoke about eating fruit, but there are people who eat fruit a lot. And just like processed food, we know that fruit also contains some sort of glucose in it. Is it good to rely heavily on fruits, especially those that contain glucose in them?
Right. So I'll say every fruit has glucose in it. So it doesn't matter the type, whether it's orange, banana, mango, all of them have glucose, what we call the sugar in the layman's term. They all have glucose in them. Now, it's the excess that is the issue, because most people don't know that. Even though we preach that fruit is good, you need to do it in moderation. So you can have the fruit with your main meals, make me a breakfast, I can have it with fruit, or we can actually space it 2 hours after the main meal, so you don't have too much energy coming in. Now, these sugars in fruit, when you overeat them, what happens is excess of sugars or glucose is stored as fat. So to you, I'm just eating fruit. But because it's an excess, you might easily have high cholesterol levels setting in. So moderation is key. I can have a bunch of banana, let's say about 6 of that. I've taken breakfast. I want to eat the banana. I can have it maybe 2 hours after I've had my breakfast. But instead of having all the 6 at a go, I can choose to have 3. Then when I have lunch, 2 hours after, I may go in for the fruit. What have I done? I have had fruit in moderation, spread across, and I've gotten what I need from it. So don't binge eat on them. You can split or spread them across in your main meals, but try to enjoy a variety, because the variety brings the various nutrients that you need to go well.
There are those who also usually say that they want to lose weight, and usually what they do is they rely solely on fruit on certain days. You see them eating banana throughout, orange throughout, pineapple throughout, this and that. They say it's fruit, so it's healthy. What's your advice to them?
So I go back to say fruit is healthy.
Yeah.
But if you overdo it,
yeah,
the excess is going to be what? Sugars. And the sugars will be stored as fat. So to you, it's good, so I'm doing it. But there are implications for overdoing things. So we say that everything is good. As I said, with food, you can eat everything. But too much is what is causing our issues. Because someone will tell you that, okay, apples are good. Yes, we agree. Apples have what? Soluble and insoluble fiber in them. But if I have 10 apples at a go, that is a lot. That means more glucose. Aside the storage in the liver and then the muscles for the glycogen storage, the extra is going to give me what? Fat. And this fat will build up in your system, line up in your blood vessels, and they'll make it very narrow. You can easily have your BPs or your blood pressures going higher and become hypertensive. Now, if I also do excess of this, it can also build up in my system where insulin, which we describe in a layman's term as a key to open the cells, will not be able to mop up the excess sugar from the fruit. So what will happen? We'll check your blood and we'll tell you that your sugars are high, so you're becoming diabetic. So it's good, but when it's in excess, when we binge eat it, definitely, you are calling more for yourself.
Is it good to substitute sugar for honey?
So there is this whole thing that someone will say, I don't want to have sugar, so I'm going in for honey. But it's actually funny. The reason is that honey has natural sugars in it. So as much as the sugar is refined, which I'm getting sugar or glucose coming in, honey will also give me glucose, which is sugar. So it is not about stopping. If you want to avoid sugar, then you might as well go off honey, because both of them will give you glucose.
Yeah, I'm asking that particular question because you usually have a lot of people saying that, oh, I don't take sugar, what I take is honey. And you see them taking the honey in excess. Yeah. Most of the time they take the honey in so much excess because they feel like the honey is a natural food coming from bees, so it's very safe for them to consume. But now you're telling us that it has sugar, sometimes even more sugar than the refined sugar itself in terms of the quantities that you take, correct?
Exactly. And one thing about it is that there's a lot of adulteration on the market when it comes to honey as well. And because you are just pouring it, to you is natural. So you don't have it at the back of your mind that there is any possible complication or issues that may come out of it. So with time, I take only honey.
Yeah.
But they said my sugars are going high. And I don't do sugars. You're deceiving yourself. The whole thing is that I don't have to overdo any of them, but I can do a combination or variety of them at different times. Enjoy your meals. Don't starve yourself, but make sure that it is in smaller portions and it's balanced.
Levelin, let's talk about labels on food packaging. You mentioned that usually there are some labels on food packages that are not even in English. If I walk into a supermarket and I pick an item, a processed food, that is labeled in a foreign language, would you advise me to buy it?
That's tricky, but as a country, let me start from where we are. As a country, we do not have a mandatory nutrient fact panel guidelines, and so we can produce our packaged or processed foods without labels for now, and then nobody takes you on as a manufacturer. And so this also stems into imported products. Most of the foods or items on the aisle that we pick are heavily imported. And so once we do not have a strict regulation on food labeling, whether they are in English, they are in Arabic, they are in French, Spanish, whatever language, nothing prevents it from coming into the country. And so the responsibility of choosing a food product that is properly labeled, that you can read, lies with you. And so I, as a consumer, going to buy a food item from the shelf that I cannot read, I will not buy it. And so I believe that for other consumers or other citizens as well, if you cannot read the label, nobody is coercing you to buy it. Some may not be schooled, and so they cannot even read the label. And for the lack of a better word, the Bible says that for lack of knowledge, my people perish. And so if you do not have knowledge about it, and you are uncertain about it, and there's nobody at that point to help you read what is in English, then it means that you shouldn't pick it. The other thing too is that some of the labels, they are very technical. So when you pick the food product and you look at the back, that is where the nutrition fact panel is. You cannot even see with an unaided lenses. You can't read it. And those that you can even read, the terms are so technical. They are calling us ascorbic acid, they are calling fructose, they are calling phosphorus. You don't even know what it is. And so it is very important that let us be schooled a little bit about the processed foods that we pick from the shelves. Let us be interested in knowing what it is. And let us also be interested in knowing the quantities that we are allowed to pick. Sometimes you are picking a food item and it's saying that 4 servings, and you don't even know what a serving is, let alone 4 of them. And so it is important that we cannot recommend enough what you go to the market and then purchase yourself. For instance, tin tomatoes. The additives in tin tomatoes, you have your color, you have your added sugars, you have your flour products, you have a few things mixed there, and the actual tomato content in the tomatoes you are picking may be very small. But in your mind, you are picking tomato paste to your house, and it isn't. And you are cooking something for your family, and then the consequences could be, today we are talking about kidney diseases. And so it is important that you pick what you know. If I am going to pick raw tomatoes, I know I am picking raw tomatoes. I take it to my house and I am mixing it in the quantities that I think or I know is good. I've been taught by my nutritionist or my dietitian that it's good for me, and then I consume. But if you don't know what you are picking, it is, I think it will be detrimental to your health and then the health of your children. And let me also emphasize the role of parents in the proper nutrition of their children. We are giving our children so much processed foods. Now we are talking about the pizzas, we are talking about French fries with chicken, and you go and order one food from one restaurant for a child at one sitting, and the chicken or the protein content is enough to feed 4 people at one sitting, and this child is going to eat it alone. So we are seeing childhood obesity rise, we are seeing the kidney diseases and other chronic diseases also rise. And unfortunately, now our children are not walking to school. Our children are not exercising. PEs are not mandatory in the school curriculum anymore. And so they go sit all day. They do not play the chaskele and things that we were used to. And so the sedentary life of even our children is beginning right from infancy. How much more when they grow? And so if we are packing all these unhealthy food products or food products with nutrients of concern to them at this younger age, we are bound to let them go through adulthood with several non-communicable diseases, and we should guard against that.
Levelyn Kunedu Esedu, thank you very much. She's the project lead at Advocacy for Mandatory Front of Pack Warning Food Labeling. I want to wrap up the conversation with you, Susanna, in 30 seconds. This is very, very important to me. What time of day should an average human being have a meal? What's the latest that somebody can eat in a day?
That is actually a bit tricky because it depends on the kind of work you do. Because if I give you a specific time and you are working during that period, you need energy, and food is your source of fuel. So we try to employ the counting rule principle, where we say that if I wake up in the morning, probably maximum 2 hours or 3 hours after waking up, I can have a first meal. I can count 4 to 5 hours intervals and have the next meal, 4 to 5 hours intervals and have the next meal. But I can't tell you stop eating at 6 p.m. when you're a night worker.
Right.
And you need energy to work, because food mainly for Ghanaians is having a lot of glucose in it. And glucose is what the brain uses. So it's not about don't eat at this time, but it's about what you are using the food for at that period of time.
Right. Susanna Kombe, she's a senior dietitian at University of Ghana Medical Center. And earlier we heard from Levlin Kunedu Esiedu, who is a project lead for advocacy for mandatory front of pack warning food labeling. We have a major breaking news to bring to you right now. The news we are getting is that a helicopter has reportedly crashed at Tema, TMA Daycare Center, and 2 people on board have been bent with the identities of the persons currently unknown. So that is the breaking news that we're getting from Tema for you right now. It is that 3 persons are feared dead after a helicopter plunged into a school park at Tema, TMA Daycare Center. Well, that's definitely a developing story that we'll be bringing you more in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, though, in the one-season raining pattern of the Savannah region, climate change is hitting and impacting the environment. But in Damango, in the West Gonja municipality, home gardening is turning survival into success. Meet the men making the difference, Jacob, Mahama, and Abubakar. They reveal the basic potentials that the soil offers.
Mr. Jacob Lange was one of the few young pioneers of home gardening in the 80s. This was a time when the initiative was largely embraced and led by aged people in the early 70s and late 80s. Today, home gardening has become a craze for both the young and old, particularly in Damango, as a significant alternative source of food and livelihoods for families. For a region which has not been spared by the impact of climate change, indigents have no option than to adapt. Mr. Jacob Lange's garden did not just put food on his table, it paid his way through college. The profits from his harvest are a life-saving income. Now, after 45 years in gardening, his passion remains, and he is still in the gardening business 24/7.
When you produce vegetables, as at the time I started, many people were not interested in it, especially the youth, the young ones. They were not interested in hard work at all. I had a lot. It helped me to continue my education in Tamale Training College after my Form 4 exams.
That means you were schooling at the same time doing this work?
Yes, I was schooling at the same time doing this work because I had nobody to take care of me. So I have to go into this work. So when I got to Tamale Training College, I have to stop. And and concentrate in my schooling. So immediately I finished, I continued.
Wow.
Yes. By then I had children, and that supported me to help the children to also go further in education.
For professionals like Mahama Sewudu and Abubakar Abdul Wahab, agriculture is an imperative solution to ensuring both food security and other social needs. Home gardening, therefore, is a time-tested investment for food reliance and economic growth.
I have 2 gardens, one on the left-hand side and the other one at the right-hand side. Yes, the one on the left-hand side is being used for vegetables in the past, but as I speak, last year it was used for yam. And then the other one is for maize. In fact, for the past 4 months, I have actually not bought yam from the market. All the yam I consume with my family is from my garden. And then the maize I cultivate from the other garden is always enough for the entire year. So honestly speaking, my 2 gardens supply my maize for the entire year and then my yam for about 6 months.
The Savannah Regional Director of the Department of Food and Agriculture, Seidu Suleiman, said the sector has all it takes to address the country's food security, particularly in the prevailing unfriendly and unpredictable climate.
We have all the waters where we know using it. So this is the opportunity the government is trying to give us in the region to be able to promote our vegetable farming. This is because there is a lot of money in this gardening. Within a twinkle of 3 months or 2 months, a farmer can produce tomatoes, a farmer can produce cabbage, carrot, and all those things, and make a lot of money from it. The income is secured.
While global food production is technically sufficient to feed 10 billion people, distribution and localized production are very crucial. Global hunger is rising, and Africa spends $50 million United States dollars yearly on food imports. In Damango, a home garden means a family does not need to choose between a meal and school fees when market prices spike, and also in a region where indigents are constantly dreading the impact of climate change. Isaac Nonya's report, read to you.
This story is brought to you by JoyNews in partnership with CDKN Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from Claire R4I Opportunities Fund.
That's it for the Pulse this evening. My name is Kenneth. Jesse, we'll definitely bring you more in the breaking news we're just getting, which says that 2 people have been killed in a helicopter crash at Tema in our subsequent bulletins. My name is Kenneth. Jesse, have a good evening.